A marble maze that tells the time, a grand grimoire with a dungeon within, a mechanical marvel inspired by a 400-year-old engraving. I designed Gridfinity to be the ultimate modular workshop organizer, but I never thought it would end up like this. Prepare yourself for the craziest, most creative ways to use and abuse a 42mm magnetized matrix, because this is Void Star Lab, where things get grid-diculous. Ladies, gentlemen, and cyborgs, my dumb nuts and bolts tray has become one of the most popular 3D printed projects, period. I'm not bragging, because I didn't really do it, you did. At this point, my primitive original bins and base plates are outnumbered 100 to 1 by superior versions made by open source community members like you. As Gridfinity matures, I've noticed an interesting development. More and more makers are treating it not as a storage system, but as a general purpose modular foundation for things that have nothing to do with tidying up your workshop. That's what I'm featuring today. And just to get ahead of some comments, if these seem like gimmicks, it doesn't matter. No one is doing Gridfinity wrong. I refuse to let anyone even imply I support that kind of dogmatic bullshit. So-called stupid projects constantly turn out to be unexpectedly useful. Case in point, the cardboard Gridfinity bins by DnD Black, which use toilet paper rolls for sidewalls, and inspired the project's dead name, Shitfinity. I usually bleep out the cussin', but out of respect for the craft, I'm gonna let that one slide. Its creator claims he modeled the original 2x2 version in 10 minutes to post on the 3D printing subreddit. That's right, this model is a shitpost. But when Dan logged back in, Shitfinity had floated to the top with over 1,000 net karma and almost 100 comments begging for the files. Dan had inadvertently crafted the ultra-rare Triple Crown shitpost. Funny, clever, and actually useful. Quick aside, f*** Reddit and anyone who still works for him. Those dead-hearted corporate fart suckers supported the psychotic fascists that arguably clinched the 2016 election. If you currently work for Reddit, you should be ashamed of yourself. My original bin design guzzles filament and print time. I optimized it for grabbing, not fabbing. By replacing 3/4 with a toilet paper tube, 4-slot Shitfinity bin actually prints faster and consumes less filament than a regular 1-slot bin. There's even a printable template to help you cut your poop tubes down to size. It's faster, cheaper, and more eco-friendly, all because someone wanted to make a shitty pun. Just be warned, this is a tricky print. The rim part doesn't have a lot of surface area to grip the bed, and the base part has some, let's just say, optimistic bridging. You'll also need to, of course, stockpile some toilet paper tubes, unless your sister-in-law is an art teacher, and you do that anyways. If your kid is a middle schooler in the Denver area, the art on your fridge may be made of something that was once wrapped in something that touched my butthole. I think this story has two morals. Butts are funny, and fun does not mean frivolous. You can solve serious problems without having to suffer. Nothing exemplifies this like today's sponsor, Brilliant, who won't just teach you math, science, and tech, they will make it so fun you will want to keep learning. That segue was fucking buttery. When you think of learning science, you think of scary shit. You're definitely not thinking about how every single widely tested theory describes the real world well enough to predict the future. It's kind of what science is. Suppose you started there first. You build a bridge, then you learn static physics. You try to hit a target, then you learn about vectors. You figure out why these gears aren't turning, then learn if they're in a circle, you need to have an even number of them. Believe it or not, our final print today actually depends on this principle. That's what makes Brilliant special. Each and every topic starts with functional demos built to feel like real-world problems. Once you get a feel for the dynamics, the theory almost explains itself. They're even adding real-world case studies, like a series on statistics that uses authentic rental data from Airbnb. And they learn too. Brilliant will show you multiple ways to approach the challenge till you find one that works. The next time you get stuck, there's a higher chance that the first explanation they show you will be the last one you need. Visit brilliant.org/Zack Freedman for a free month to try the entire catalog. That's thousands of courses, and more are added every month. If you like what you learn, you will also save 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks to Brilliant and you for supporting my channel. And now to confuse the hell out of anyone using Sponsor Block. Speaking of blowing things up with the power of your mind, tabletop RPGs and Gridfinity go together like Benedict Cumberbatch and Jensen Ackles that time they had the TARDIS to themselves. Behold, as in Beholder, you know, like the monster from D&D. The Gridfinity Dungeon Kit by C Cohort. These walls, doors, and flagstone floors transform any base plate into a battlefield you can reconfigure on the fly. It's pretty handy if the wizard keeps trying to blast through the walls like a f***ing asshole. No, Alonzo, the module does not mention how thick the floor is. For the low price of free, you can lay out an infinite variety of labyrinths to tactically spackle with blood, guts, and presumably urine, because have you ever seen a toilet in a goblin hideout? The 42mm grid isn't just a storage standard, it's also a standard scale for wargaming. If you prefer bolt guns to lightning bolts, C Cohort's got you covered with the Grimdark Spaceship Kit. It's gothic, it's greebly, it is just begging to be blown apart by a sonic cannon that's also a grenade rifle, that's also a flaming electric guitar wielded by a dude in leopard print bell-bottom power armor that may also be on fire. I don't know who painted this thing, but it belongs in the fucking Guggenheim. But let's return to the oubliettes and winged lizards. For a hobby that's supposed to be all about imagination, D&D nerds sure bring a lot of crap, and nothing pops the immersion quite like pouring platonic solids from a Crown Royal bag. Well, bring our next model to your next game night, and I guarantee you, the entire party will say, "What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?" The incredibly large tome for playing Dungeons and Dragons. That is the actual beginning of the actual description of the Dungeon Master tome by Bearded Printer, and let me tell you, it is accurate. This very voluminous volume packs a print bed edge to edge, it calls for 30 magnets and a pound of filament, and it'll run you $10 for the files alone. The result is a glorious grimoire that unfolds into a slick, self-contained supply station. A clever linkage hoists the cover up and out of the way, ready to mount the included collapsible dice tower right on its ram. The same magnets that secure the lid also keep the dice tower from falling off. The whole thing is very clever. Technically, the tome isn't actually Gridfinity. It's an example of a project inspired by it. He used a simplified 30 by 30 by 25 unit. I took the liberty of creating a Gridfinity base plate, a frame to hold the dice tower, and a half-width bin to pad out some of the awkward gaps. Now it's perfect for storing paraphernalia like dice, pencils, and cards, and while it can store minis, like with DTM Hawk's 24 unit bin, your standard 25mm dude is just a titch too tall to stack a dice tower on top. I also want to clarify, you are allowed to make paid Gridfinity models. I'm not a fan of selling something that can be infinitely copied, but I want Gridfinity to be truly open source, and that means giving you the freedom to make it not free. To the creator's credit, his instructions are excellent, and the models themselves are extremely well optimized, so as long as your printer is at least 200mm on at least one axis, it's surprisingly easy to print this book. I can't believe that pun has never come up on my channel before. Our next model is the complete opposite. Free as in Freedman, literally zero documentation, and less a printable project than a project idea. It's also one of the only models I've ever seen that's based on not one but two of my videos. You are looking at the Gridfinity Cyberdeck by Vinicurst. A Cyberdeck is sort of a custom-built laptop from a parallel universe that reached a technological singularity before they invented the hinge. One of my favorite things I've ever built is my Data Blaster, a Cyberdeck with a wearable eyepiece and battery-packed carry handles that one day will short out and burn my house down. The Gridfinity Cyberdeck is exactly what it says, which is convenient because there is no description. There isn't even a look at the pictures and assemble it the same, bro. There aren't any pictures. I don't even think the creator built this project. The construction's actually pretty simple. You just jam 3/8" wooden dowels into these brackets, slide on the special base plates, glue on some triangles to prop up the display part, and add Gridfinity. I really like how the holes are serrated so they can bite into the dowels and lock the whole thing together. Now we have the perfect platform to fill with futuristic shit. And where does one find mini monitors with Gridfinity sockets on the back? One does not. One really should have done some homework before blowing half a reel of expensive glowing starlight filament on this thing. So one ended up designing a complete set of Gridfinity Cyberdeck accessories. That's Cyberdeck accessories, but I made them into one word. First, we have a 7-inch display I ordered years ago for the Cyberdeck project that became the Mirage keyboard that I swear is not dead, it's just napping and holding its breath. I already made an enclosure to mount this thing to my video camera, so I just merged it with Gridfinity sockets. This is when I realized Vinicurst opted not to add magnets or screw holes to the Cyberdeck's base plates. I decided not to reprint mine because I kinda need the rest of this filament. This is what I use for the collaborator plaques I put up to honor our most generous supporters, you know, the ones that make future videos possible by chipping in at patreon.com/Zack Freedman, like, comment, subscribe, buy the merch, join the Discord, check our affiliate links, visit brilliant.org/Zack Freedman, pet a dog, not my dogs though, that would be weird, rescue a dog, then pet it. I built a tray to hold this terrible folding keyboard trackpad combo I bought at Micro Center, and let me tell you, this thing's fascinatingly terrible. Look how tiny they made the V key, and the T key. I can understand skimping on V, but T? That's like the most popular consonant. Like, if space gets a giant key, T should get a giant key. Besides, who doesn't love a T-key bar? For power, I'm using the Chargeek battery I reviewed ages ago. I modeled some brackets so my charge wouldn't run all over the place. Finally, we need a CPU, and I caught a break. Elon Kushner designed this nifty inclined Raspberry Pi stand to proudly display this Pi 5 a Discord member sent me. Unfortunately, he sent it a while ago and Discord doesn't let you search your DMs anymore, so I can't thank you personally because I forgot who you are, I'm so sorry. Behold the possibly first actual Gridfinity Cyberdeck. What it lacks in rigidity, portability, efficiency, practicality, usability, aesthetics, and everything except modularity. It makes up with modularity. Are you sick of this incredibly stupid keyboard? I am. Its stupidity is incredible. Swap it out for Raspberry Pi 400. Of course it's better than a Pi 5. It's 80 times more number. Empty space is unacceptable, so let's add another monitor. And why not an Arduino too? And a breadboard. I inadvertently recreated one of those Radio Shack My First Circuits console things. You remember those? Of course you don't. You're not a fucking million years old. I'm also adding a bin of Q-tips to swab the deck. It's the worst joke I've ever made. I gotta admit, this is way less useless than I expected. As a prototyping platform, it's really handy to keep your breadboard, CPU, power, and parts in one tidy package. All right, once you add the wires and stuff, it's like tidy style, like a kosher style deli that'll put Swiss on your pastrami. But no matter how you slice it, this is a fun project. It's a little pastrami humor for you. Speaking of impractical projects based on iconic retro stuff primarily associated with New York City, our next one is even more of all of that, if you were a superhero. The pouch-covered utility belt. That's right, we're gridfiniting your pants. This is Chris Creates Crap's modular utility belt clip, designed for manly men things for men, like hammering nails, chugging beers, and catching fish. And very little else, considering those are the only modules the creator made. Have no fear, Zack is here, wasting even more of his rapidly dwindling days on Earth crafting Gridfinity gear no one even realized they didn't want. This little guy lets you quick draw one slot of Gridfinity like the Wild West's dorkiest desperado. Hog the DDR machine with a belt full of quarters. Remain ready to wield your Windex. Keep your friends close, but your solder sucker closer. The possibilities are as wide as your waistband and as deep as your dump truck. Fine, I'll stop adding Gridfinity to other people's projects. Our penultimate transposable juxtaposition assemblage eschews pragmatism for buffoonery, and I have to use big words to feel smart, because we're about to go far beyond anything I could ever make myself. The Matrixed Marble Machines ecosystem by HFOG, almost certainly the most elaborate Gridfinity thing ever released. You are seeing not a project, but an entire architecture of tracks, linkages, and actuators that transforms your existing base plates into whirring, whizzing kinetic art that glistens with metal spheres taking the adventure of a lifetime. Just a heads up, this entire system is also paid models. I shelled out the small bucks for the M mechanical clock kit, which stacks up elaborate towers of cascading trays and corkscrew ramps that function as a full-on hours and minutes timekeeper, courtesy of a microcontroller neatly tucked into a Gridfinity compatible enclosure. Schematics and code are included, and you can even order a ready-to-solder circuit board. I opted to make my own because I like making electronics, and I like doing things I like doing. As for the printing, I wouldn't say it's hard. I would say it is sheer agony. For starters, it's distributed as standalone model packs, and unless you just happen to open the supplemental zip file first, you're gonna get misleading, contradicting lists of which parts to print. Then, you gotta rip through an astronomical amount of filament, battling a Ninja Warrior obstacle course of shit that's hard to print. I'm talking cantankerous overhangs, flat plates itching to warp, and overly tall, spindly columns. Those super tall supports were never gonna happen. I had to cut these into pieces in the slicer, print them separately, and glue them back together, which came out a little questionable. But once it's all printed out, cleaned up, and studded with magnets, it actually works. It's really impressive to see shiny steel marbles rolling, stacking, and interacting on Gridfinity. The Matrix Marble Machine has incredibly cool details like self-emptying trays that cascade into each other and a dual-armed linkage that delicately hoists and transfers each ball. I chose a Wi-Fi microcontroller, so mine pulls an NTP clock server and actually keeps time. This is a functional clock. It also uses the same ball bearings as my board game Hextraction. So if you're sick of quadrilaterals, may I suggest a hexagon? It's a real test of your printer and your printing skill, but if you're looking for an intricate project to really push yourself to the limit, it's time to get rolling. But as intricately clever as these mechanisms are, they are fidget spinners compared to the grand finale. Last year, I built the first step of what was supposed to be a motorized, computerized, belt-driven vertical Gridfinity carousel, and if you're wondering what happened to that, it kicked my ass. That idea turned out to be way too hard for me to actually make, and the whole thing's been on standstill while I figure out what to do. Nick Fugal beat me to the punch with what's possibly, probably, almost certainly, definitely a better solution in all respects. The Gridfinity Carousel Motorized. This Gridfinity Ferris wheel uses a planetary gear system to hold 5 revolving base plates rigidly upright, and while these counter-rotating gears in gears on gears might look like insane over-engineering, they really aren't. Nick's design is extremely well conceived, and far more sturdy, elegant, light on filament than my chain-link idler wheel paternoster monstrosity could ever have been. Nick based his design on the book wheel, a revolving rack by 16th century military engineer Agostino Ramelli, conceived to help scholars consult codices too massive to spread on a desk. The secret sauce is an epicyclic gear system, which is incredibly fun to say, and also multiplies torque to the point where a single piddly hobby motor can wrangle 50 fully loaded full-height bins. This means you don't have to worry about evenly distributing the load. Gravity never stood a chance. It is a lot of stuff to print, but apart from the big broad base plates, none of these prints are very challenging or need any cleanup, and as long as you're only putting a couple pounds of crap on it, you can run the whole thing in PLA. I used rainbow PETG, carbon fiber ABS, and glass-filled nylon because I got a reputation to uphold. Assembly instructions are video only, which I don't like, but they're focused enough to actually use, which, I do. As I constructed each sub-assembly, I realized how thoroughly this design has been refined. Apart from filament, all you need is 2 of the most common kinds of screws, 2 of the most common kinds of bearings, a gearbox motor, a jack, and a switch. And since the jack mounting plate is a separate bolt-on part, you can easily customize that in the slicer for whatever panel mount hardware you already have. My only qualm is it doesn't have magnets, and while the trays spin so smoothly, they're probably not necessary. I just like the feeling when a bin pulls itself into position. So I modded the base plate to put them back. The feet are also separate parts, so you can make a tabletop version like mine, or hook yours to the wall with a simple French cleat, which is also 3D printable. Nick even included just the foot mounting plate isolated, so you can easily make your own interface. Again, just great optimization all around. He even took the time for a few bits of forward engineering. The stock electronics are literally just a bidirectional switch, yet the oversized enclosure has built-in bosses to mount a Pi Zero motor driver and voltage regulator. It's almost like he watched my episode on the Litfinity and thought I may use those features. Real talk, I am tempted to abandon my custom mechanical thing, print 20 of these and, pack them with ergoblades. Let me know if you think it's cheating, because I feel bad about it, and I can always feel worse. And those are my favorite designs that take Gridfinity in wild, weird, and wonderful new directions. From magical worlds to whirling mechanisms, a janky clanky past to a cybernetic tomorrow, Gridfinity truly means infinite possibilities. On a grid. So where could we possibly go from here? You, my parasocial pal, need to think outside the box. Why make a Gridfinity tool holder when you can just make a Gridfinity tool? Why limit yourself to one system when you can mash it up with printy panels, honeycomb grid, and any other way to stuff stuff on other stuff? That's right, people. We are going vertical. We are going horizontal. We are going in circles. Hit subscribe if you want to see those, and let me know which of today's models was and or were your favorite and or favorites. The algorithm loves that shit. You know who I love? My patrons. I mean, my wife and my patrons. We don't make enough ad revenue to pay the bills, so I count on viewer support to keep the rain out of my Gridfinity. Each video, I thank 3 Random Lab Scientist supporters, and this time it's Nanotech, I Hate Java Swing, and TrueBW3. Our most bombastic benefactors, the collaborators, include ZomboDB, Diogenes of Yerba Buena Brooklyn Cannabis Dispensary, Microwave, Turner's Aid, The Benevolent Misanthrope, The Suits Who Earned Our Fun, SXP, Scott Reedy, Schleppy the Schwagster, Bitrot, and Chuck Me Horror Baby. Did your eagle eyes spot their names in an Easter egg? If so, are you actually an eagle, or did you just steal the eyes from one? Finally, our lab assistant supporters, whose names I really feel bad about abbreviating, but they keep making really long and the video's gotta end. Thank you, Wankies Uwu, to Vigelli, Paul Gibbs, 3D Workshop, James, a Catboy with IBS, Michael Creamer Jr., Nuclear 314, Zach Harvey, Nathan, Zachary, Agent Maxwell, Joseph Ribka, Robert the Bob, PRD, Right to Repair, Clayton Easley, Buck Turgidson, Gunner, Spire, Big Bird Tommy, Zap, Quality Doggo, Acorn, Onyx Plague, Land Jesus, Circle Zero, Kevin Sumner, Olive Robbins, SKL, Robert Breeze, Bryn Wolf Schulte, Nova Wren, Jack Moran, The Cutzelfish, DBD, Travis Hippa, Matthew Runhart, Crash Doom, Lydia K, Nobi Johnson, Scroto Saggins, Comrade Spamuel, Baden-Württemberg, VK2K, 6A6F, Alex Perrin, Iron Rain, Timor, Bob Dobbington, Skittle Shoot, Chris Floofy Kitsune, Rusty Flute, Granville Schmidt, Trump, Parasocial Bestie, Anti-Tux, Powerful CCH, Martin Titonium, TR Fullheart, Renaud Bataille, Haunted Water Heater, John Loves Jen, Evan Kinney, Elfinger, Moonkin, Trans Rights, Viwatch, The Monk, Stormy Design, The Q101, Incognito, Gotham, Kermit the OG Frog, Slippy McToof, Sorceress Emily, Aaron Steers, Land Narwhal, Pucker Up Brown Eyes, Mike Kelly, Good Suck, Max Luck, Eddie, Shardalos, Cliff Henning, KO Cabal, I think?
Nope.
Cameron Ogletree, Beltless Printer, Urgay, Blammo, Brad Cox, Callsign Carrot, Danny Devoid of Life, Earth Scott Airlines, Thunder Chicken, Jiggle My Puffs, Dr. Mrs. the Mirrorman, Talon, Quantumly Tangled, Amanishi, Possibly Socks, Robo-Kemow, Doomcrew Inc., Elite Giant, Bill Schooler, Cullen Z. Webb, Amir Rahum, Akeli Maybe Say Trans Rights or Human Rights. How dare you! Sunburnt Cat, Karanamon, Great Star Theater, Haley Kerman, Kathy Brent Irvine, Periodclot, Sticks, Des Baldonado, Socks McGox, Reagan, Shorts, Trash Panda Totem Pole, Bull and Beans, Burn Duck 3, Protagonist, Craft Computing, Kevin DeGraff, Good Lady Nat Vanquisher of Scurvy, Travis Pocky, Kyle the Drywall Repairman, No Disassemble, Just Human Garbage, Cody, Dale Bibi, Rihanna 99 and Urch, The Carolster, Shane Frederick, Cameron McPherson, Kink Shaming Walrus, Michael, Tactical Possum, Dennis Kempen, Xanforian, and D-Orbital Mechanic. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the future.